Yeah, here I am. Sitting right here in this spot. Kyle Larson is a multi-NASCAR champion in the Cup Series. And I honestly wasn't expecting it at all. Like, with the big heap of controversy and how broken this farcical format truly is, and at this point the majority of us have already been a major broken record about it, I honestly wasn't prepared for Kyle Larson to muster up another championship and become the next multi-champion on the field. I really wasn't. I truly thought it was William Byron that was going to acquire that championship, because Kyle Larson, when he blew his tire, I truly thought it was over. But he pulled a Kurt Busch from 2004 and came back and won that championship. Granted, it was due to overtime, but even if this was under the season-long points format, he still would have won the championship. Well, at least with the idealistic full season-long points format that has the stage points. Which at this point, if we're going to have stage racing in NASCAR, then we should give drivers credit for their average performance, not just their average finish at this point, because acquiring bonus points in stages gives the driver credit for their performance throughout the race. So I think we should just normalize driver performance throughout the entire year at this point if we're really going to give drivers that much credit. But to really summarize Kyle Larson's season in 2025, it was relatively quiet compared to most of the recent Hendrick Motorsports championships this century, because he only won 3 races. Homestead, Miami, when he overtook Bubba Wallace and Alex Bowman on the closing laps, and I honestly kind of regret falling asleep at the last 30-plus laps after I got back from my trip from Norway. And then his dominant fashion at Bristol Motor Speedway, which that race fucking sucked. And then there's his victory at Kansas. Not as climactic as his photo finish with Chris Buescher from last year, but I would still say that that was a pretty moderately thrilling race. Honestly, as for 2025 as a whole, it was decent to watch for what it was worth. It was good, but nowhere near the exciting level as 2024, which is why it'll forever be a big wound and scar that neither Christopher Bell or Kyle Larson won the championship that year, because it was just so goddamn good throughout the regular season until it was ruined by the playoff format yet again. But I'm not going to delve too hard into that in this video. But with this big milestone that Kyle Larson just achieved, he's now the 3rd multi-champion in the Hendrick Motorsports ballpark. Unless if you count Terry Labonte, but he was with, I think, Junior Johnson in 1984. So, technically, Kyle Larson's now the 3rd multi-champ, and is currently the 3rd winningest driver in Hendrick Motorsports history, He is tied with Dale Jarrett's win record of individual Cup career wins. But yeah, honestly, I don't even know what to do at this point, because if you thought it was symbolic that I saw Jimmy Johnson win his 6th championship with my mother in 2013 back at Homestead, and then I would see Kyle Larson put on a Jeff Gordon 1990s-esque performance throughout the entire season when I saw him win at Nashville, and then win at Watkins Glen, and then win the championship at Phoenix. It did suck that Lane wasn't there, but in my defense, I didn't have DoorDash at the time, so I couldn't muster a ticket, both for myself and him at the time. So, sadly, I didn't have a lot of resources, but thanks to DoorDash, it has definitely proliferated by a lot. I mean, how else am I seeing all those foreign countries these days? Honestly, I probably should end it right here with going to the final race, unless my friend Mark Basniak hits me up and wants to go to Homestead, Miami, because I know for a fact it's not going to get as good as this unless maybe William Byron or Chase Elliott muster up a championship. I'm more concerned about William Byron because he still has yet to redeem himself from 2023 after he was completely robbed by this bullshit format. But yeah, I digress because, well, I could probably take it so seriously that I will not stop going to the final race until I see William Byron win, assuming that they will actually completely do away with this whole elimination gimmick. But I think what's more beautiful is if I potentially end this on a high note and come out while I'm still on top, you know, to give myself this glorious, emblematic Disney ending. You know, this was basically a big lightning in the bottle, as my mother would say. She said that that was the biggest lightning in the bottle when she and I took the chance to go to Homestead, Miami to see my man Jimmy Johnson win the championship. It's just something I dreamed of ever since I was 5 years old. And 11 years later, that dream came true, thanks to her. And then Jimmy Johnson's protege, Kyle Larson, would go on in 2021 to put on a Jeff Gordon 1990s performance and would win his first championship in front of me. It sucks that I was alone and not with my buddy Lane, but I made up for that 4 years later. Man, Lane and I saw a history of Kyle Larson becoming a multi-champion. I am just in awe that he and I actually saw the finale at Phoenix end with the ultimate fucking bang. No, it couldn't have ended any better than Kyle Larson winning the championship. I, by the way, still have extreme pity for you, Denny Hamlin. I really am genuinely sorry that happened to you, but I will at least give you props for at least saying that Kyle Larson absolutely deserved the championship and that he should not be questioned by anybody. It takes a lot of balls to have that kind of sportsmanship, and I really do give Denny Hamlin props, which is why I've been really starting to respect him a lot these last couple of years. Like, I know I've had my rage episodes with him doing stupid shit on the track. Seriously, go watch a lot of my previous race reviews, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But honestly, I don't think I really need to have this much bad blood towards him if he at least has self-awareness and at least is a gentleman to his opponents. Honestly, if you ask me, Kyle Larson's opponents wasn't even Joe Gibbs Racing, or really, it wasn't even Penske for that matter. You don't even have opponents on the track under this garbage playoff system. Your big enemy is a broken system, not other drivers on the track. Because your main goal, obviously, is to win a championship, but also to expose how garbage this format is, to make sure it doesn't screw you out of a championship. And I honestly would like to think that the 3-3-4 format wouldn't get put in place because, you know, that's only half-assing a big change, but they just desperately want this format to stay, and they just are too reluctant to listen to the popular demand at this point. They just never want to listen. But sorry, I'm going off on a tangent yet again, but still, I was hoping dearly that this year would be akin to 2013 because that was the year I was playing a lot of Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and I was always imagining what 2025 would look like or how it would play out, but it feels like it's an upgraded version of 2013, as I would potentially suspect. Man, just everything has just been going damn awesome. Last year it was the Celtics. Patriots have been putting on a fire performance and have been dominating up a storm. Seriously, did Tom Brady's energy stay with the New England Patriots beyond his relevance there? I am just in awe that all these good things are happening to me. It's like, You see, a lot of the adventures I had are pretty much akin to the adventures I had back in 2013, especially when I returned to Old Orchard Beach, of all places. And the fact, you know what? If I was probably 28 years old in 2013, I'd probably do all of these adventures the same way. Seriously, Norway, Netherlands, places like fucking, you know, going back to the Sheraton Hotel in Charlotte. And now, in response to Kyle Larson winning the championship, much like how he took his daughter and wife to France, Paris, France, to go see Taylor Swift for Kyle Larson's daughter's birthday, I am going to go to Paris. I am going to go to Paris. But not just Paris, St. Denis and Normandy, and potentially Verdun and the Argonne, you know, to honor the military heroes of both world wars. You see, since I saw Kyle Larson win his second championship in front of myself and Lane, I figured I would take the route of Rey Skywalker from The Rise of Skywalker by going to... like how she went to Tatooine to honor the legacy of Luke Skywalker by visiting his original home and burying both the lightsabers. And then she ignited a lightsaber of her own and then took on the Skywalker name to honor their legacy. That's exactly what I will be doing by the time I get to the beaches of Normandy to honor the grandfather of my friends Kyle Bedreau and Allie Barrows, since both of them are blood related to Corporal John Bedreau, who served in D-Day. He has quite a lot of history serving World War II without going into too much detail. So I thought it would be appropriate, since after I saw Kyle Larson win his second championship, I would do the exact same thing, or something akin to Ray, by going to the beaches of Normandy to honor his legacy. Because why not? I'm a big history dork, and he put his life on the line to liberate France from the diabolical Third Reich. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but I just figured I would talk about my personal adventures and personal stories that I have that kind of revolve around NASCAR and history at the same time. So hopefully this was somewhat intriguing enough for you guys who are listening, because I like to make these epic stories around my NASCAR adventures. Like, when I am not going to races or sports, I am just visiting countries in Europe that revolve around history, or alternatively, filming locations that revolve around Star Wars, like, you know, the Skellig Michael Island in Ireland. But anyways, to bring it back to Kyle Larson, he may have finally achieved the milestone of becoming a multi-NASCAR champion, but he still has a long ways to go. Like, the only crown jewel he has left is the Daytona 500. And that is pretty much the hardest crown jewel for anybody to achieve, given how much of a big crapshoot Daytona and Talladega are. Like it or not, it does still take skill to give yourself the endurance and land yourself in the right spot at Talladega and Daytona, so winning the Daytona 500 is still a big achievement to your name. So, who knows what Kyle Larson's going to muster up in the future. He's, the dude's, like, still, he's still 34 years old and was born in, I think, 1992. So, he's got, like, a little over half a decade left in him. He doesn't plan to race beyond 40 years old, so hopefully he can muster up whatever he can before he decides to hang it up. Honestly, if I were Kyle Larson, I wouldn't even try to drag it out. I honestly wouldn't beat a dead horse too much if NASCAR is still fixed in their own ways. Like, if Kyle Larson would win a third or even fourth championship, I would say that he would hang it up right there. He should hang it up right there if he comes to that big milestone. Like, reaching to the 7th championship is too 1 in a million to really even try to reach for those kinds of stars that are so extremely distant. I'm not saying I doubt Kyle Larson, but I can't put that much expectations on him, given how corrupt NASCAR is, and given how 1 in a million it truly is, given how only 3 drivers in NASCAR history were able to muster that up. Like, even if you were under the full season points format, it would still be 3. Whether it's Richard Petty, Dale Sr., and Jeff Gordon, or Richard Petty, Dale Sr., and Jimmy Johnson. Actually, for fun fact, since some of you probably don't follow my buddy Conrad, Jimmy Johnson actually would still be a 7-time champion if we operated under the F1 points format. Which is another thing. I'm really hoping that NASCAR will at least go back to a full season points format that rewards extra for winning, extra in the podium, extra in the top 5s, extra in the top 10s, you know, to put the big emphasis on depending how high you finish. I just believe that it serves just as much better than the slop we have now. We obviously don't have to go back to the Latford system. We don't have to go back to the exact same format as that Latford system, but at least go back to traditional racing and, you know, fix it up a bit. Fix up what was wrong with the Latford system and, you know, give drivers the bigger urgencies to finish higher than what they currently are if they have that chance to pass another opponent of theirs. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit too far ahead of myself talking about the points system yet again, but I will once again bring it back to Kyle Larson and say that he definitely has come long ways. You know, from driving for Chip Ganassi, I meant. Anyways, to bring it back to Kyle Larson, he's definitely come a long way since then. The first time I ever saw him race was when he was driving the 51 car for Chip Ganassi, and he almost wrecked that race at the finale of 2013. And now look at him now. Lots of people saw potential in him, given how much of a hard racer he truly is, and how much of a big dominator he was on the dirt tracks. And, well, you look at that now. Given how much we saw him perform in a Chip Ganassi mobile, we definitely knew he would be worth something at the higher top-tier teams at Hendrick Motorsports. And he has definitely proven himself in time. He has proven many fan expectations beyond the broken system. And I'm just, I don't want to bring it back to the points format again, but I'm really hoping that NASCAR can finally actually take driver legacy seriously and not just jerk off their warped definition of entertainment. I really do hope something changes. I really do hope they don't continuously jerk themselves off to their warped definition of entertainment, because when I was watching this race, the only drivers that had any kind of threat to them when they were leading the race were the drivers not named Denny Hamlin. As soon as Denny Hamlin would lead the race, he would be like 2 semi-trucks lengths worth ahead of second place. Like, you could put 2 semi-trucks between him and second place as soon as he would take the lead. Unless if you're William Byron the first stage, of course. And the only time anybody would ever catch up to him is if Goodyear decides to combust out of nowhere. You see, William Byron tried to keep his car under control, but it was just downright impossible because of how dogshit Goodyear truly is. Because suddenly, out of nowhere, this race decided to be a complete carbon copy of 2008 Brickyard 400, where the Goodyear tires were just a ticking time bomb awaiting to detonate. Also, with how super low volume the Hendrick victories were, both with me attending the races in person and, well, me watching them on TV, they won in upwards of 8 races. I mean, Hendrick Motorsports has prevailed with less wins before, much less by only one driver before. See no further than Jimmy Johnson in 2010 and Jimmy Johnson in 2016. I wasn't prepared for Hendrick Motorsports to win championship number 15. I really wasn't. Let's go over the races that I saw this year in 2025. Phoenix, I saw Christopher Bell win. And then Martinsville, I saw Denny Hamlin win. The Coca-Cola 600, well, William Byron was about to win. He was dominating the majority of the race, but he couldn't seal the deal the last couple of laps because his car was much slower compared to Ross Chastain's, and it didn't help that William Byron had a bit of a tangle with Tyler Reddick much earlier. Pocono, I saw Chase Briscoe win. Southern 500, I also saw Chase Briscoe win. And then New Hampshire, the lowest viewership count in probably NASCAR history of this century. Ryan Blaney wins. With how lacking the Hendrick Motorsports victories were of the races I was going to, my faith was actually pretty much depleting. I didn't have too much faith because I kind of saw that as a not too pretty good omen. And Phoenix was the last chance for any of them to stir up the deal. It was the last chance for them to land that bullseye. And they didn't win the race. But there's a big catch to this. Ryan Blaney wins the race and Kyle Larson wins the championship. Like, for once, under this farcical format, we got a race winner and a championship winner. We got one driver winning the race and another driver winning the championship for once. It actually felt like a real ending for once. It felt like the glory days of 2013 and back, or at least the more integral days of 2013 and back, with seeing a race winner and a championship victor. You got one guy winning the championship, and then you got the other guy winning the race. It finally felt real for once. Because, one of the things I absolutely genuinely despised with a burning passion about this format is that the spotlight always and only has to be on the championship contender that wins the race. Because it feels like that's the ultimate obligation for all the championship contenders these days. They have to win the race. They have to beat everyone else that's on the field. You can never have two separate burnouts these days. Also, does anybody else find it genuinely fucking disrespectful that they didn't even interview Ryan Blaney after his race victory? Seriously. One of the biggest problems this format has is that all of the spotlights have to be on the championship battle. It has to be centered around only the championship contenders and not any of the other drivers that prevailed. See no further than Ross Chastain 2 years ago. 2 for 2 for ignoring the race winner that has no bearing on the championship battle, NASCAR. Or NBC, sorry. That is just another piece of information of why this format seriously needs to be scorched in fire and never return. Never to be salvaged into such a big heap of garbage ever again. It always was a big heap of garbage, but any attempts to salvage it should be completely discarded. Seriously, who else thought that the ending of this race, besides the big controversy surrounding it, felt real? You got Ryan Blaney winning the race, and then you have Kyle Larson, the rightful champion, winning the championship. Finally, for once, we get 2 separate winners. That's something I've been really missing from the full season format and 10-race chase format. But finally, we got a second exhibit of a non-contender winning the race since they had nothing to lose, and you got the rightful champion winning the championship. Well, even though Ryan Blaney wasn't the rightful champion in 2023, but I digress. But finally, I cannot stress enough how much of a big dynamic it serves when you see one driver with nothing to lose winning the race to add on to his record and resume, and another driver that's contending for a championship win the big trophy. Like, does anybody else miss that? Am I the only person that genuinely loved that about the full season format and the 10 race chase format? Who else loved it? Who else loved seeing two drivers have their own personal spotlight? Yeah, you know what? Whatever. I don't even care if I'm alone in that perspective. I truly thought I saw the last ever exhibit of that back in 2013 when Denny Hamlin won the race and Jimmy Johnson won his 6th championship. I truly thought I was never going to have that again until 2023 came along when Ross Chastain won the race and Ryan Blaney, albeit is an asterisk, still won the 2023 championship. But now I got that again, and this time the rightful champion won under this farcical format. Kyle Larson winning the championship, and Ryan Blaney winning the race. I don't think I can ever begin to stress enough how awesome it was for Lane and I to see history this year in 2025, as well as my mother and I back in 2013. And that's only putting aside my mother and I seeing Jimmy Johnson win his 6th championship, and the fact that he would go on to be one of the 3 drivers to win 7 championships, albeit one of the championships being under the shitty playoff format, but that still goes without saying he still would have been a 7-time champion under the F1 points system. Full season format, might I add. Full season points format with F1 points system is what I meant to structure that sentence as. So I am just gonna be so puzzled as to how NASCAR would find this entertaining. How the only time that the rightful champion would have a snowball chance in hell in acquiring the big trophy is if Goodyear decides to randomly combust out of nowhere. You know, this brings us back to the completely random brake failure David Starr had at such a timely manner with 30 laps to go, or I think it was 30 laps ago. That would be the equivalence of, you know, the Celtics about to win the whole NBA Finals, and then suddenly someone from the Spurs just knocked out Jason Tatum, and then LeBron James would just reclaim the ball and then go to the Celtics court to score. Do you see how massively warped it is whenever you try to be so akin to the stick and ball sports? You're just creating scenarios where so much randomness and so much variables that could happen out of nowhere would fuck up a person's entire season. And this is definitely a perfect example. Right here. This right here is another exhibit of why this playoff format needs to go the hell away and never come back and just be scorched in complete raging napalm fire. Never to be brought back ever again. Like, even if Kyle Larson was a deserving champion, it doesn't change the fact that this is the ultimate problem with this format. There's so much variables that could really destroy an entire race because of Goodyear's just combusting out of nowhere. But anyways, I don't think you can really debate who is the real champion over the other. Under the full season-long points format where there's stages, Kyle Larson would be the real champion. Under Formula 1 points format, full season, Denny Hamlin would be the champion. And under the original Latford Winston Cup format, Christopher Bell would be the champion. And you see, this is yet another reason why this playoff format is absolute garbage. It's overshadowing the legacies of other drivers, like Christopher Bell, like William Byron, like Kevin Harvick. Do I really have to open that can of worms yet again? Alright, I'm really sorry, Kyle Larson, if I'm overshadowing your victory by talking about how crap the playoff system is, but I do at least applaud you for showing class towards Denny Hamlin. You really are a gentleman, and that's why I'm now a bigger fan of yours than I ever was in the past. And not only that, William Byron also showed Denny Hamlin class by going up to him in the conference and saying, "I'm really sorry that happened," because he knows that his Goodyear Eagles combusted, and as soon as he hit the wall, there was no turning back. There was no turning back whatsoever. And he really tried to keep that under control. William Byron tried with all his might to keep his race car under control. But you can't do nothing about a blown eagle. Once it's blown to smithereens, you're just out of control. You're just out of control, and there's just nothing you can do. You can't really discredit Kyle Larson for this for the season that he put on. He's literally the first driver since Tony Stewart in 2005 to win the championship without winning a single race during playoff season. Like, Kyle Larson didn't even win a race under the coverage of Prime, TNT, NBC, and USA. His last victory was back in May at Kansas. And somehow he still was able to land that big bullseye. I truly wasn't prepared for that, given how absolute garbage the system was. Like, I was totally preparing for yet another Penske asterisk championship, especially when Joey Logano just had his golden horseshoe stuck up his ass at Charlotte Roval and decided to rub it in our faces, especially when he did not advance on his own merit. And then, when you saw Ryan Blaney leading at Martinsville, you definitely thought it was going to be yet another asterisk Penske championship. But then William Byron said, "Not if I have anything to say about it." And then he pulled the bump and run on some of the closing laps, and he prevailed and won his way into the Final Four. We definitely thought it was William Byron that was going to be the victor, but no matter how hard that William Byron was trying to challenge Denny Hamlin, Goodyear Eagles says, "Nope, fuck you," and Kyle Larson became the champion. Man. And just to let you know, even if we were under the full season format, the outcome still would have happened the exact same way. Like, William Byron would be the leader coming into the final race. And given how Kyle Larson was up towards the top 5 all race long, bearing his Goodyear Eagle incident, Kyle Larson still would have taken the points lead after William Byron's mishap. So, under the full season format, this still would have been a major heartbreak for William Byron, and also Christopher Bell for that matter. Seriously, again, NASCAR, this proves that we don't need this format to create drama and excitement. Why do we need this gimmick any further? Like, I really don't care if Kyle Larson still rightfully won his championship despite how corrupt this format is. We want change. We want it to happen naturally and organically. Like, the driver competition should speak for themselves, not for constant compulsive race setting. Why even have any resets at all? Make the format how in the 12th race 20 drivers can be eligible, and then the 24th race 12 drivers can be eligible. That is a much more simpler sample size of who can compete for a championship. But yeah, I really am proud of Kyle Larson. He's definitely come a long way since then. He's now officially a part of Elite Company. Not like he wasn't earlier, but he has now defied all the bullshit that was barraged at him, and he's now a multi-NASCAR champion. And no one can take away from it. Oh, and just letting y'all know, Kyle Larson, the quality of Kyle Larson's 2 championships is a lot better and bigger than Joey Logano's quantity of 3 fake championships. Like, Kyle Larson has more race victories under his 2 championships than Joey Logano does under his 3 fake championships. Like, would you prefer 2 championships under the statistics Kyle Larson has, or the fake statistics that Joey Logano has? Don't be a bluff. But yeah, Kyle Larson, you definitely bullseyed it right there. You definitely were the big lightning in the bottle. That lightning in the bottle was my pal Lane and I attempting to see one of my guys win during the Call of Duty Black Ops 2 year, because I always wondered if I would recreate this moment 12 years from the point of 2013, when I was still a big Black Ops 2 gamer. Jimmy Johnson won his 6th championship in front of me in 2013. I was only wondering if I would recreate such a thing by going to the finale with my pal Lane one day, since he and I played Black Ops 2 quite a bit in 2015 to 2017. And here we are. He and I have seen history, and right after we saw Kyle Larson become a multi-champ, the following days we saw the big meteorite crater in Arizona. That's a bit more northern from I think it was Winslow that it was adjacent to, which was quite a surreal experience, if you ask me. Like, I have been going to Phoenix for many years at this point. The first time I ever went was back in 2015. I never saw arguably the most important piece of solar system research history, which was that meteorite crater. And I honestly thought it was genuinely surreal. Like, only I would go to Phoenix and always overlook that side of the state for so long. But finally, it's a part of my and Lane's history now. And I even got to visit the site where he destroyed the portable DVD player from one of his classic videos. This definitely has been a wild year for me. And wild in terms of NASCAR. I probably could go on about the fiasco that's unraveling about the very obscene emails and text messages that were said by Steve Phelps and Steve O'Donnell, but I really don't want to go on so many more tangents. So, this is my Disney ending. This is the canon ending to the Black Ops 2 year. Kyle Larson becomes a multi-champ. And I am hoping dearly that something finally changes after this. I really do genuinely hope something finally changes. Because if nothing's gonna change, or if barely anything's gonna change, I might as well consider this my Disney ending. Because, I probably... If NASCAR is dead serious about returning to form in some way, then they should have told us that pretty much a year ago. But alas, instead of me going to the Daytona 500 to take the chances of seeing Kyle Larson pretty much complete his NASCAR career by winning probably, arguably, the most important race on the entire schedule, I instead will go to an important piece of World War II history with my buddy Mark Basniak. The only way that I will probably consider Homestead, Miami is if Mark tells me that he's along for the ride. Oh yeah, here's a little fun fact. Did you know that my buddy Mark Basniak was named after Mark Martin, who has been outspoken against how farcical this playoff format is? And I am pretty much the reason why his love and rejuvenation for NASCAR has been unraveling and blossoming. And I'm pretty much the reason why he now has NASCAR history to his travels. All right, so we got the Brickyard 400 that he and I went to, and we saw Kyle Larson win, and then we saw Denny Hamlin win at Martinsville. All right, he's got a decent amount of history. Let's just hope I can get him to some IndyCar races eventually. I'm hoping that the Indy 500 will be his first IndyCar race, much like how Indianapolis at the Brickyard 400 was his first NASCAR race. What a way to open the journey for his NASCAR going history, eh? Yeah, I just can't wait to see what Kyle Larson will muster up in the future. And I really have been becoming a bigger fan of his year by year. He really has impressed me. And I couldn't have been more proud of him. And if he wins one more time, he'll tie Kevin Harvick to my race going history. And if he wins 2 more times, then he is the winningest driver to my history. So I'm gonna keep going to races in 2026 and beyond. I'm just not sure if specifically the finale. I probably will, but I also probably won't. But at the same time, I truly want this to be the end of me going to the final race, because it's probably not going to get as good as this at all. Not unless if William Byron or Chase Elliott will prove me wrong, or under such a snowball chance, Alex Bowman. Maybe. We always have a big chance of being proven wrong by multiple drivers. I mean, just look at fucking Kiwi. And just look at Josh Berry from Las Vegas as well. If there's anything that the year has solidified, is that it's never over until it's over. Never write off a driver's chances. Because most of the so-called victors or champions led the most laps of the final race, except for Denny Hamlin. That is just added to his legacy of misfortune at this point. Honestly, I don't see him coming back from this, because usually when you choke this magnificently, you don't come back from it. Just look no further than Kevin Harvick. Unless if Denny Hamlin continues to prove me wrong. I mean, the only winless season he's ever had was 2018. Not even his broken back stopped Denny Hamlin from winning the final race in 2013. Which proves how utterly resilient he is, but he can't seem to muster up the biggest prize, which is the NASCAR Championship. But in his defense, there's only so much you can do about a broken farcical system. But even without the broken farcical system, he still wouldn't be a champion, except for the 2025 season under the F1 season-long points format. So who knows how Denny Hamlin will come back after this one? Who knows how he's going to perform beyond this point? Only time will tell, but until then, I am just going to rejoice the hell out of Kyle Larson winning. This is such a goddamn good time for me. This is just a glorious, emblematic time for me. I've been waiting for this moment. You know, anytime I would look at nature, you know, like how I'm looking at the trees outside, whenever I would look at the lakes, whenever I would look at the ponds, whenever I would look at the mountains, whenever I would look at the sky, whenever I would look at the stars, whenever I would just listen to rain, I always wondered if whether or not there was a chance for me to see one of my guys win the big trophy in front of myself and my buddy Lane. And now that's a reality. Here I am. Lane and I saw history. And no one can take that away from us. He may be more of a casual fan, but he understands what is far better for the NASCAR sport. I mean, he has watched more than plenty enough slap shoes to have his stance of why NASCAR needs to fucking change once and for all and get out of this absolute utter slop they've been poisoned with for over a decade. I mean, since NASCAR has made this absolute farce to pander to the casual fan, NASCAR might as well surrender, because Lane has said that it has serviced absolutely nothing for over a decade, and he's a casual fan. Seriously, NASCAR, Go ask him. He will definitely confirm to you it is the worst thing to happen to any racing sport, period. So you can't convince yourself that this is good for any person that's an amateur to the sport. Honestly, can you really call Lane that much of an amateur at this point, considering he's already known more than a sizable enough about NASCAR despite not being an avid follower, to my point? But anyways, I'm not going to go off on that big of a tangent. So anyways, the point of this video is that I'm super proud of Kyle Larson. Finally, this fucking garbage format did not smother his worth. He was actually able to bullseye the deal. He has proven himself worthy of a multi-champion. To be fair, he probably should be a 3-time champion under the format of season-long points and stage points. But I digress. He finally got himself the multi-champion title. And he has joined elite company alongside Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. Finally, I can have that absolute rejoicement and closure. After my trip to France, I don't know where I go from here, other than my potential trip to Hawaii with my buddy Mark and our other mutual friends, Jake and Cassie. Hoover, I'm still going to consider the Daytona 500 one day with you, but probably not 2026. Because I need to feel promised by genuine change from NASCAR in order to have enough passion to go to the Daytona 500, much less grind the money for the Daytona 500. I'm not sure if I would take it so seriously that I hope to see one of my guys win the crown jewels at the Coca-Cola 600 and Southern 500 or Daytona 500. I mean, I already said Kyle Larson win the Brickyard 400. But I will still go to Daytona 500, Southern 500, and Coca-Cola 600 sometime in the future. Maybe not 2026, but I will still go to those races to probably roll the dice for a chance to see them win. And not to mention, I like seeing racing under the lights. Well, Daytona starts during the day and then transitions towards the night, but if you want a total nightfall experience, go to the Coca-Cola 600 and Southern 500. I don't know if Bristol is really worth it at this point, but you can always go if you like. Anybody that's watching this video. I'm considering North Wilkesboro and Chicagoland due to the fact that they are returning to the schedule, and I would like to cross off those classic tracks off my list. I'm not sure if I really take my NASCAR going experience so seriously that I want to sweep the whole active schedule at this point, given how very little NASCAR cares about legitimacy. So if NASCAR finally cares about legitimacy again, then I will probably take it as seriously as I used to, but until then, I am just going to divert my attention to my newfound interests, such as my international travel experiences, as well as other military history trips. As well, also, I kind of want to see at least one game from all 4 of my Boston sports teams. Like, I want to see at least one game from the Patriots in 2026, and then at least one game from the Bruins in 2026, and then at least one game from the Celtics in 2026, and then, of course, keep my tradition of going to Red Sox games. I want to see at least one game from all those 4 teams next year. I actually want to have that experience. Oh yeah, for those that don't know already, I'm actually going to go to my first F1 race in 2026, so you want to talk about branching things out? I'm going to go to Austria and go to the Red Bull Ring and see my first F1 race. For my experiences, anyway, and for this channel. And as for NASCAR and the fate of Hendrick Motorsports, time will tell. We will see. I do think Hendrick Motorsports is resilient to not crumble down and fade out of relevance or fade out of the out of the contender status or out of the dominator status, but they are always mortal. They are always prone to weaknesses. They do have kink in their armors, and it's a good idea not to get comfortable with their domination or their luck. Because there's always those big chances of them having either bad seasons or just shit luck where they cannot win races. Let alone on a consistent basis. But yeah, I don't know how much longer I am going to drag out this video than necessary. I pretty much recapped what I was going to do in the future, and only time will tell if things will in fact improve. We will see. We will have to wait and see before we write anything off. We will have to wait and see before we jump any kind of gun. We can't jump any gun or second guess ourselves quite yet. We will see if NASCAR will finally rekindle their glory. It'll probably take about many years at this rate, given how expensive it is to increase the horsepower to make those cars bad fast yet again. But if I at least see them return to the 10 race format, or the 10 race chase format, my bad, or the full season long points format, then I will at least be a little bit promised. Until then, I am just gonna rejoice this glorious moment. Just a fucking awesome day. Fucking awesome day to be a fan of Hendrick Motorsports and Kyle Larson. Anyways, thank you all for listening to me monologue about so many different topics beyond Kyle Larson mustering up the championship and finally bullseyeing at the right time, even if this format is utterly farcical. Though, to be fair, once again, he still would have rightfully won the championship under the format where it's season-long points with stage racing. But I am still going to rejoice this moment with all my might to the extent of flying to France to celebrate this fucking awesome, glorious moment. Alright, I think you guys heard enough gushing from me. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my lengthy monologuing about so many different topics beyond Kyle Larson winning the championship. I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's. I honestly don't know when the hell I'm uploading this video. But hope you all stay safe, take care of yourselves, and are having a good life. Spacing out.